in any poetic act, there is something that resists to creation and counters expression. We must look at the act of creation, the poetic act, as to a field of tensions stretching out between potency and impotency, to can and to cannot, acting and resisting. If we consider what we said, this means that the poetic act cannot be understood according to an ordinary representation as a simple transition from potentiality to actuality. The artist is not a man who has a potentiality to create that at certain moment, we do not know how and why, he will carry out into actuality. If any potentiality is constitutively impotentiality, potentiality not to, how can we understand the passage to the act? Let's say, if for the pianist, the realization of its potentiality to play is certainly the execution, let's say, of a sonata in the piano, what happens to his potentiality not to play in the very moment in which he begins to play? How can a potentiality not to realize itself? So there is a kind of specific ambivalence in each human potentiality, which maintains potentiality in relation to its privation. And this relation defines, according to Aristotle, the essence of potentiality. The man who has a potentiality can both exert it, realize it in the act, but also not to exert it. Potentiality, this is the really genial thesis, this discovery of Aristotle, is essentially defined by its possibility of not being exerted.
I suppose I never really did want to give concerts. I thought of it as something that had to be got through. I thought of it as something that one must do while endeavoring to establish, I suppose, some sort of reputation which would stand you perhaps in good stead later on. And it didn't seem to me that there was anything very productive even at the time. There was a sense of power which I rather enjoyed when I was 14, 15, 16 years old. That was kind of fun to play before a live, rabid public and give of the best one could and toward which one had practiced for many months. But that wears off very quickly. That's a very thin veneer indeed. And once you start doing that every couple of nights and at distant points and distant lands, the charm and the glamour of that doesn't last very long. Because one cheats in giving concerts, you don't explore very much new repertoire. You play the same old, tired pieces that you've tried out on your recorded public as well as on other publics. And one does cheat and one does try to get by with as little work as possible and play them pretty much the same way, I suppose. And there is an incredible lack of imagination that sets in. There's no longer a need to rely particularly on imagination. And one grows old very quickly. It's a dreadful life.
So what defines the mode of being of potentiality is that it exists in the form of a mastery on a privation. So a potentiality, or the man who has a potentiality must remain in relation to this potentiality also when it does not exert it.
On Easter Sunday, 1964, at Orchestra Hall in Chicago, I played my last public concert. It was an event to which I looked forward for a decade, and by way of celebration, I decided to spend 3 days in training, need it or not, and to choose works which, through the years, had held a special meaning for me. The program drew upon Bach's Art of Fugue, Beethoven's Opus 110, and the Third Sonata by Ernst Krenek.
So the highest potentiality is a potentiality that can both its potency and its impotency. Impotency. If every potentiality is potentiality to be as well as not to be or to do, the transition to the act can take place only transferring into the act the potentiality not to, the resistance. This means that each pianist has the potentiality to play and the potentiality not to play. But Glenn Gould is only the pianist who can not play. And turning his potentiality to his own impotentiality can, so to say, his potentiality not to play. Contrary to the mere ability and to talent, which can only play, pass to the act, maestria, the mastery, keeps and exerts in the act the potentiality not to play.